and a happy Friday night to everybody. Josh here on The Wrong Lead. Another episode of You Gotta Be Sha Tinning Me. Joined as always by Mr. Matt Carlson. Matt, how was Black Eyed Susan Day for you?
About as good as Derby Day. I remembered why I don't bet Pimlico and why I should never bet Pimlico, and I'll probably do it again tomorrow. So can't wait. Yeah, I didn't hit anything today. I think I got a couple long shots in the place bet. That was about it. So
Yeah, I played
not
the
great.
I played the late pick four, mostly because I was busy at work and I just wasn't able to really pay attention much today, and so I get to the late pick four, and obviously I lose first leg, and I'm just like, you know what, I'm not going to fire back to pick three, and then of course I'm wrong in the second leg too, so I'm like, great, like I saved myself money. I did use that four though that went I think wire to wire in the oh, I forgot what race, second to last race. I forgot which race it was.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't think it went wire to wire, but like King's Barn and who was the one on the inside that Paco was riding, who I joked about betting, who was actually loose. But yeah, I played the one who dueled with Kingsbarn and not all that heavy fractions, but then yeah, just Cherie DeVoe did what Cherie DeVoe does on
hmm.
these days, and you know,
Well, then I would have been completely wrong because I didn't watch the race, but I just assumed that four went wire to wire because I think that's what I thought was going to happen. So funny. I would have backdoored in that one, but I didn't bet that race. And then obviously I thought the five was super logical in the Black Eyed Susan.
yeah,
That was, I mean, the horse ended up going off at what, 8-5, 9-5 or
I
something.
think
So
I think it drifted up to 2-1, but I kind of
2-1.
expected it to go the other direction. So like I was like, oh, it's not a great price, so I'm not going to play it. And then if it was 2-1, if late money was actually coming the other way, which it kind of seemed to do all day, I wouldn't have played it, but maybe I should have. So oh well.
This is
No,
the first time. This is the first time we're recording since Derby, right?
correct. Yeah, we've been off for a few weeks, so
Yeah,
obviously Derby Day I needed to recover a little bit, and then last week was a Friday night shot in, so we I don't think we got to it, but
yeah, and that was on my fault. That was my fault because I meant to get us record. I think I even mentioned on drinking champagne. I'm
yeah,
like, oh yeah,
you hyped us
I'm gonna
up.
record. I'm gonna record Matt. We're gonna get something out, and I just like totally. Dude, I'll tell you, man, work has just been something else. It's been great. I mean, it's always busy, right? There's always work. We work off of like a ticketing system, and like there are more requests come in than we can physically output. I mean, I think that's true of any type of service desk or anything like that. Like, I mean, and we're talking like nice to haves, right? We're not talking like stuff as like legit broken, but actual like, hey, like enhancements, I guess you can call them. But man, it's just I've been getting my butt kicked the last couple weeks with just some real frustrating stuff, and so time is just like blown by because like I'll get done with work and I'm just like I don't want to. I'm gonna go downstairs and watch like YouTube or something, and then I like pass out on the couch or something.
Yeah,
Which is probably not anything you know about anymore since you have kids.
I
So
mean it sounds glorious, but it's been a few years since I've been able to do that, but that's okay. I needed the time to recover anyway from the mean things people said about me on the internet after my
oh,
Kentucky
dude,
Derby picks, so it's fine.
dude, this is. I mean, in fairness, there were at least I know I saw at least one comment, but there might have been multiple. There, like people were right there with you, and then I mean, of course, the horse runs dead fucking last. Like, I mean, what are you gonna do? But I mean, even funnier. I mean, I don't know if we talked about this, but there a guy commented on my. We did a short YouTube short for every single horse that ran in the Derby,
Yep.
and I did Fierceness, and I just titled it "Fierceness Will Not Win the Kentucky Derby," and some guy just goes, "Thank you for this. I'm going to bet $200 extra on Fierceness because of this video. I don't know who you're going to make money on." And shout out to Fierceness, who I think finished like 17th or something.
Yeah.
But funny enough, I tossed up a quick little vlog of, and I don't know if vlog's really the right term, but like I had this idea when I was in Kentucky. I've done this before for meetups that we've done and stuff like that, where I take quick videos, check in, do stuff like that, and then I just toss it together for like a 5-6 minute video. You know, it was chaos with all the traveling I've been doing for work, and then basically going straight down to Kentucky, getting stuck in traffic, all this other nonsense, and so I didn't really get to, I guess, put as much time into it, but I recorded some decent stuff, and like I shared it with my friends who threw the party, and they loved it. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna post it, and so I posted a couple of videos of my time down in Kentucky, just hanging out at a party, going on a track for a little bit, and had a little fun with that. But the funny story about that party, my buddy Matt, who was hosting a different Matt. He and his wife Carrie Lee, who's a really good friend of mine as well. They were so busy just like running the party and like making sure stuff was out, preparing food, stuff like that. And like I was a guest in their house, and like it just felt really weird because I'm like, I need help. Like, what can I do? And then like I felt like I was just in the way, and so like at a certain point I jumped in and helped out with stuff, but most of the part I'm just like was a, I was a guest. I didn't really do too much, but Matt comes up to me. He's like, dude, and this is on Derby Day. He's like, I haven't bet anything all day, and the Derby was coming up, and he's like, look, just give me long shots. I don't want anything less than like 15 to 1. Just give me long shots you like. And so I'm like, well, and so I'm looking at my superfecta, right? I put in a cheap ticket, like a $25, $24 ticket, and I keyed Sierra Leone and Catching Freedom on top in first and second, and then in third I used those two, as well as Anna Marie and the Japanese horse, and then in fourth I put is where I kind of put my long shots. I thought it was going to be kind of a semi logical. I had tossed Fierceness, so I was right on that. And that was kind of my play. Is I'm like, I think it's going to be, Sierra Leone and Catching Freedom 1, 2. One of these other deep closers is going to get up for third, and then in fourth I used. I'm already forgetting the names of these horses. Is it Domestic Product? Was that the name of the Chad Brown horse
Yeah.
in
Yep.
there? And then Mystic Dan. And so I was like, I guess I'll give him the guys who I have written in fourth. So I told him, I was like, yeah, Mystic Dan and Domestic Product. And I think he put 25 to win on both those horses. So he won he got a cool $500 for for win betting Mystic Dan, and so I was happy I wasn't able to contribute to the party as much as I was hoping to, like, helping them cook or get ready, but
Hey,
he was able to at least pay off some of the stuff.
there you go.
It was funny. He got, I think it's called a country ham, and essentially it's like Kentucky prosciutto.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it comes like on like this big old haunch, and he like told me how much that thing cost. I mean, it was like a couple $100. So at least I helped pay for the country ham for the party. Although he had done pretty well on Thurby as well, so that helped a little bit. But it was fun. I met a ton of cool people down there. A ton of people who love racing. A ton of people who were like, "Oh, you do a podcast. You must be good at this." And then it was really funny just, trying to. I was very clear with them. I was like, look, if you like a horse, like, you bet it, right? It's your money. I'm like, if you really don't care or don't know, like, I'm happy to tell you what I'm betting, but like, you know,
Yeah.
uh, it's always tough with that
It's
kind of stuff. But the thing is like they like since a lot of those people were locals and local to Kentucky, like they understand the game. It's interesting, right? Like they know, like, oh, like, yeah, like you're basically trying to be really right once or twice, and you make a ton of money, and most of the times you lose. And I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
that's right. So
It's at least people understand that, right? I feel like everyone who asks me are the people that play one race a year, and so if you're
hmm
giving those people 15 to ones, it's like, cool, it'll take you 15 years potentially to make your money back, right? You're right once out of 15 years. Nobody wants to wait a decade to hit a race, right? So
yeah,
it's hard to give that out where, like, you know, I'm an addict, so I'm playing 10 races after the Derby's over, right? Like I'm gearing up for Hong Kong that night. I probably
yeah,
played the Golden Hour that I shouldn't have played right after it. I mean, it's like it's easier to play 15 to ones when you're betting way too many races, that, which I shouldn't do anyway. But I mean, it's hard when you're giving those things out. People, they don't want to lose. They want to be right the one time a year and be done with it. That's what they think this game is. So,
I
hey,
actually one of the funniest things, and like I said, like these guys, I mean, the people I was with, I mean, they have that degenerate streak in them, and I loved it. So when we were at the track, they brought a deck of cards, and I was like, well, what are a deck of cards for? I'm thinking, Capone had once said something about like you draw four cards and then you box those four horses for a superfecta, right? Like just like random like stuff. So I'm thinking they're gonna do something like that. No, so at every race, depending on how many horses you put in between five, each person puts in between $5 and $10. Depends on what they feel like they're doing. If it's a smaller race, like if it's like a 6 7 horse race, they'll do 10. But if it's a bigger race, they'll do 5, just so the pot kind of stays the same. And you get drawn a card. You get given a card based on the horse saddle cloth, and you win not based on the horse that wins the race, but the horse that comes back and crosses the finish line again. So after the gallop out, the horses turn around and they come. So we're in box seats, right, on Thurby, and the race is over, and all of a sudden, dude, like the horses are kind of like just trotting back, moving real slow, right? The jockeys are talking to each other. And then it's like, the two Ortiz brothers or whatever are sitting there like on talking to each other, coming back to the finish line. And all of a sudden our entire section is going crazy. We had people in all the boxes next to us like buying into this thing. People are hooting and hollering, yelling for their horse to cross it. And everyone's like, what? Like people are looking at us like we're crazy. Like why are these people yelling? And I thought it was hilarious. And then the second thing that they did, and I put a clip of this in the video, is they play basically a dice game with the horse. So like if you have there's no one horse, you're throwing two dice, but like right if you roll a two, the two horse moves up a step, right? And they have it all worked out, so we're like kind of like craps where like the odds are set based on like the 7 has got the most steps because the 7 is the most
yeah,
rolled
yeah.
horse. But the same thing, right? Like we're sitting there at this party, and just people are just yelling for their friggin' dice horse to come home. So it was just a ton of fun. Great to see that kind of stuff. I was with a bunch of people who we're putting money through the windows. I'm not going to say they're putting the kind of money that you and I are putting in, but they were putting in through enough money that I think horse racing could stand to have these people play more regularly. Yeah, it was a ton of fun. It was a great trip, and I think we can move our focus to from the domestic product here to something international in this late pick 3 here at Sha Tin. Matt, you weren't too impressed with these races.
There's a couple fields that I was scratching to find someone I liked rather than just try to cap them by, what I hate the least. So, sometimes that works out, but we'll see. So,
Yeah, this first race here is Class 4. We're gonna be going 7 furlongs, 1,400 meters here. And when I initially looked at this race, I was really, really behind the one, Sonny DeBest. I thought that last race was very impressive, but he did it on the front end. He kind of had it pretty easy, I think, on the front end that last race, and he's getting 12 pounds. He's getting 12 pounds. He's getting 12 pounds, and I think he's going to get a little bit more pace pressure this time than he did last time. And so I have him as a B. I think he can still, I mean, if he still gets out there and if he's able to lope around and slow it down on the front end, I mean, I definitely think that he's got a chance. But, I mean, I don't know, off that last effort, I could see him maybe taking a ton of money. I landed on the 7 Lucky Touch, who is Zach Purton is aboard. So my guess is that he'll either be the favorite or second choice in this spot. He doesn't have a win yet. Obviously, they've ran him twice, and now they're stretching him out. But I was kind of just trying to look, if this thing isn't gonna, go wire to wire, you got a little bit more pace. The five's got a little bit of speed. Obviously, the one, the nine has shown some speed. The 10 has shown some speed. So I think if you get a little bit more of an honest pace here, I think it's going to set up for a mid pack or off the pace type horse. And if you look at those closing fractions for the 7 horse, I mean, this looks like a legit horse. Maybe needs maybe it's just a bit green or just needs a couple runs, and Zach stays aboard here, which riding this horse twice and only finishing the money once. I think he must see something in this horse. So I don't think this is like a super sexy pick. I mean, like I said, this is probably going to be your second or first choice here, but it's my top pick. The other horse I was interested in, which I think you might get more of a price on, is just well, not just to the outside, but the just slightly lower weight than, or the same weight actually as the 7 Lucky Touch. The number 8 Super Unicorn, who is actually drawn inside of Lucky Touch. He's in the 4 post there, but I was just, like I said, I'm looking for an alternative, someone coming from off the pace. And, if you look at that closing fraction last time out, I think that fits in really well with this group. It might be one of the better closing fractions here in this group. So, I think if we can, kind of keep this horse out of trouble and gets a clear run, I think this horse has got a bit of a kick. And I think he's similar to the 7, where maybe just didn't have, is a little green, needs maybe a couple starts or something here. But yeah, I thought the 8 was interesting as kind of an off the pace type that's got a good closing kick. Obviously, I think the 7's my top choice. I have the 7's an A. I got the 8 as a B, and then I'll probably end up using the 1 in some way, shape, or form. But I don't know. I'm thinking about it. I think that might just make this too chalky. Maybe not make it worth playing. So, where do you lie, Matt?
Yeah, I really like the 8. I saw the race kind of similar as you did. I thought there was a fair amount of pace up front in this. And now, granted, they're running on the C+3, so the rails are all the way out. Um, I don't necessarily think that plays to pace here so much. I do think the C+3 kind of is more fair. Normally, like in domestic racing, you'd think, okay, rails out tends towards speed, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case here. Um, but yeah, I thought the 8 was really interesting. I was kind of encouraged by that effort at 1400 last out. I like the jockey upgrade a lot. If you watch the replay on that
Yeah.
8, Derek Long, it wasn't really breaking from an outside post. It breaks from the 5 draw. For whatever reason, he decided to like hold the horse back just to get over to the rail from the 5 draw, and so it was sitting dead last. The horse doesn't have a ton of natural speed, but whatever speed it had, it kind of got compromised by him drawing it back. And then if you look in the straight, it just has too much to do. The horse is kind of behind a wall. And I think Derek Lung shifts it out like 4 paths, tries to close, doesn't have a hole, shifts it out another 4 paths. So it's got to go from the rail out to like the 8 path, in the stretch. And it's just too much, right? I don't know if it was ever getting home, but it does strike me as a type that is at least encouraging and progressing, right? Again, it's probably the deepest closer here, so that always gives me pause because I think you always have this thing where you try about the sexy closer that's going from last to first, and it's like, does a race really set up that way? In this case, I'm hoping it does.
Hmm.
But again, I think with the upgrade, I think with the, it is picking up 2 pounds, but it's drawn the same. I think that effort showed enough last time where that's going to be kind of my top pick. In the 8, I did want to get around the 7. I see Zach up, and that horse just to me hasn't shown enough to warrant the price you'll probably get on it. And then I saw the 1 the same exact way you did, right? I think picking up 12 pounds in a race that has a fair amount of horses that want the lead, uh, that's just not a place where I really want to go. The other horse I did like was the 12 Young Horizon. Look, obviously the last 2 races in Class 4 have looked not so great. But I do think the race three back in Class Five does fit, and it's hard to say that those races in Class Four were really bad. It's hit the board twice, right? I mean, you can't knock it. Getting place money a couple times. And it gets the 7 pound weight break with Ellis Wong. And, I've said it, I think 3 weeks ago, right? One of my guilty pleasures is saying, oh, look, he gets 7 pounds on a bug jock. That's awesome. But, Ellis Wong is a decent jockey, right? Had a 10 pound break until recently. Now has a 7 pound break. Um, but look, I mean, I think last out it was against a pretty forward track. And I think, the horse is riding at 114 against a lot of really high weights in here. It kind of is that mid pack horse that I think I'm looking for in here. So I think you'll get a decent enough price given it hasn't, won yet in Class 4. And I think it might be primed to take this out. So the 8 and the 12, I think, are the two horses in both. I'll use those as A's and really not kind of use a B in this race. Just hoping to get around some of probably the shorter prices in here.
Yeah, when I looked at this race, I mean, obviously I think the one's best effort wins this, but I just think he does have a bit going against him in this spot. So looking for maybe a little bit of regression from the one, and maybe one of these other horses to kind of step up a little bit, and it'll make this race a little interesting. Race 9, we're going to be going 6 furlongs here, and we have Class 3 racing. And yeah, Matt, I'll let you go first here. Where did you kind of land here?
I hated this race. I think both the 5 and the 6 are probably your logical choices, right? Obviously, the 5 Super Joint Fun hasn't run yet at Sha Tin. But you get 3 races, you get 2 wins in a show, or 2 wins in a place, right? So hard to knock the record of the horse. I thought it was curious that Zach chose the 6 over the 5, but the more you look at it, I'm like, okay, um, Jerry Chow has the 2 wins on the horse, and then Zach finished second. It probably makes sense to put Jerry Chow back up on the 5 there. So okay, you know, I think you have to use those. I do think both will be over bet. I don't really want to use those as A's. I think of both of them, I would tend towards the 6, who hasn't had a win yet. I do think that horse is probably primed to win at some point. Um, but just from a pure value perspective, I really hate it. I don't really want to use either of these, but just for sake of a pick 3, I think I would include both of them. I was really stretching to find a couple other horses in here. I do think of the firsters, I like the 2, Mojave Desert. The turf trials have looked okay. It was running against some pretty big deal horses in those trials. And I never know what to take from trials because obviously, if you're running against big name horses, it's easy to say, "Oh, look, this horse is keeping really good company with some pretty competitive horses." But kind of the flip side problem with that is those horses that are proven aren't really running in trials, right? They're not showing anything. They're just kind of wrapped up the entire time, and like they're sitting at seventh, and they're just finishing seventh. They're just there to kind of stretch the legs out, and unless they really have to show something, they won't. So I never put too much stock into it. I do think you of the firsters, right? I would want to use that one as a B. Um, I do have one long shot in here that I really do want to use, and probably if like when I post on Twitter, I always try and post some value, kind of that each way play. I really like the 10 Lucky 8. And this horse stinks, but it stinks, I think, in favor of this track, right? The horse is what, 3 for 24 lifetime, but 2 of those wins are on this track, right? It's 2 for 6 running at 1200 on Sha Tin. So to me, if the horse wants to do anything, and maybe it doesn't want to do anything, maybe it doesn't want to run at all, I think this is it, right? You've seen it. It's running in Class 3 at Happy Valley. The past, few races have been at that 2-turn Happy Valley configuration. The problem with that is, right, that's kind of the topped out level at Happy Valley, right? Those 2-turn 1600 races or 1650 races, you get the horses that really want to do that. That's kind of their max level. So it's really lost to some decent horses in there, at least for horses that want to do that. And for a horse that didn't want to do that, I think, hey, it's probably catching a fair weight break, and maybe getting back to what he wants to do, right? You get Matthew Poon up, that gives you an extra couple pounds, so it's going to be going off at 117. Hey, I mean, I think of any in here, right? It'll be forward. I hope maybe it'll be forward. I'm not really sure where they'll place this horse, but in any case, right? I do think speed wise, you'll get a huge price. I don't pay attention to morning lines, but I think the morning line is something like 35 to 1.
Mm.
Um, that's worth a shot to me in a race where I really don't like much of anything. So I'll use that one kind of as my each way play, and probably slot in the 2, 6, and 5 as uses in the pick three. Just try to get through the race otherwise.
So I put a little question mark next to the 10. Look at, I really tried to make a case for this 10. It's actually pretty funny. And it's tough. I should have like dug more into the website and tried to go back because when I
They're a
look,
ways back. Those wins are a long time ago.
well, not only that, but so actually you said that this horse is 2 for 6. This horse is actually 2 for 4 at this distance.
Yeah,
He's 2 for 6 at Sha Tin
yeah.
with the fourth place there as well. But what's interesting is when you look at Speed Pro, and I don't have it shared right now, but he's got a race at Happy Valley going 1200 that actually really fits in here. Speed Pro's got it at 100. The 1 and the 4 both got 102s as their best in the last year, but the I'm a Single Man's last race was 100. So that race is in the realm, right, of what these other horses have run. So he's got that effort in him. Only 5 years old, right? So we're not talking about an 8 or 9 year old that we're like, really hoping that is gonna find the fountain of youth here. And I kind of agree with you, right? Like this horse is coming going 1200 when he's been going the 2 turns this entire time. The last at least 5 starts, all the starts you have in the PPs. And like I said, you look back at Happy Valley race. I forget how far ago it was, many months ago at this point. But he ran a very competitive figure here at that distance. So I thought he was interesting. I How is Matthew Poon still got a weight allowance? By the way,
He
like
doesn't win races.
I mean, I think he
It's
wins
not for me
enough.
not betting him, but
I mean, maybe
yeah,
he
no,
just won more when he had like a bigger weight allowance, and now that he's struggling to get across. But like, I remember like he was winning races when he was 7 pounds like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, or something like that. So that's crazy. But yeah, I'm interested in your 10. I had him written down originally, but you know I'm gonna go with a 2. And I'm kind of looking at the back class, right? Obviously, the horse. I mean, they put him in the Group 2 race, so they must have thought something of this horse, right? I mean, ran evenly, ended up finishing 5th. Took a lot of money, went off at 3 to 1 in that race. Comes back to a handicap race, wins that, and then obviously someone is like, "Hey, I want that horse," and bought him and shipped him over. And you get Hugh Bowman to take the mount, which for a first time starter always interests, or first time Sha Tin starter rather interests me here. And it looks, I kind of saw the same way with the trial. I think he's got 1 win in 4 starts in the trials. But what I was more interested in is how he sat. He was sitting mid pack in most of those trials and kind of making a run. And I think this is another race where I think you're going to get a good, honest pace, right? The 1 is drawn out in the parking lot, but he's done most of his best running, on the lead. Obviously, the 3, Ladies' Choice, is another one that's going to want to be forwardly placed. The 4, Full Credit, wants to be forward. The 5, Super Joy Fun, has done his best running going forward. So this is another one where I'm just trying to find someone mid-pack or maybe even further back to win. I'm with you on the 6. Honestly, maybe a lot of this is the fact that, Zach rode that 5 and ran pretty well, ran second. And he's like, no, I'm going to go with this other horse. Like, I'm going to jump off. Like, I know it's John's size, so, I think Zach will probably always hop off to ride a size mount. But I thought that was interesting. And, this is another one where, like, you kind of look at those closing fractions. And this is one that's got a pretty decent kick compared to the rest of the horses in this field. So I thought the 6 made a ton of sense. I have him A/B. kind of price dependent. Maybe I'll take a look at the pools beforehand, but I'm probably leaning more towards A on him. And then just outside of the, or not really, well, actually technically it is just outside, but the 11 horse, Captain Win, is I'm guessing you're going to get a price on this horse, right? He's coming in, shipping in from Happy Valley, and he wasn't super bet at Happy Valley. I mean, he went down to 3.5 to 1 at some point, but then next time out he ran 11 or 11 to 1, and this is just another one where I'm looking at those closing fractions. I'm looking for somebody that's going to come from off the pace. I mean, Karis Teeton gets off, Hamlin gets aboard, and Hamlin's not exactly, lighting the world on fire over there. But if you look at that last race, right, he finished fourth by 2.25 lengths. He's taken back pretty far. But they have that pace marked as very slow. They went 24-4 in that first fraction, going 6 furlongs. Like they don't do that normally at Sha Tin. So it was just a glacial pace. I think that the 11 had no chance to win that one, and he still finished fourth in that race. So I think he needs a setup, and I think he might get the setup here, and I think you're going to get a decent price. So yeah, so I'm going to go with this 11 Captain Win as a B. I probably end up tossing this 10 in as a B as well. So I'm going to use 4 horses here. I'm going to use the 2 and the 6 as A's, and then the 10 and the 11 as B's in this spot.
I'd love me a good one for 30 horse. I love
Hey,
it.
hey, maybe he got 29 slow paces, and he just needs that
Stu.
nuclear pace.
Stu?
All right, race 10. We're going to close this one out. And honestly, this one was tough because I think if Chu Chow Spirit runs his race, everyone else is running for second. I really do think that this horse is head and shoulders better than the rest of the field. Obviously, he's going to be carrying a ton of weight, and maybe maybe that is going to be enough to kind of derail this horse. I mean, obviously, it ran ninth, 2 back, but you kind of cross a line through that race, and this horse seems like he's been pretty consistent. Speed Pro figure wise, I mean, this horse is right there. Has got obviously the best figure for a while, and yeah, I just think that he's gonna be pretty tough here. I really looked at the 8 Loyal Bobo pretty closely, but I think that this is one that maybe just kind of got exposed a little bit by moving up in class. Was able to win I think 2 races in a row, basically going wire to wire in those races, and I mean setting decent enough paces, but last time out, I mean, wasn't even really able to get the lead, and then just kind of faded. And I mean, he is drawn well, and he's drawn a lot better than last time. So maybe you kind of upgrade this one, but I don't know. I just think that he's gonna have a hard time. This 9 Amazing Duck has got Matthew Poon aboard with the 2-pound weight break, and this is one that's shown a decent speed, and I think the 7 Skyheart went wire to wire last time out. I just like this is another race where I think you're going to get an honest enough pace that I'm going to kind of fade the the horses right on the pace. So I think Chu Chow Spirit makes a ton of sense here. Going to sit, I think, probably mid pack and get a good run on them. It is drawn decent enough. I think the 3 Young Achiever makes a ton of sense here. Drawn on the rail. Second time out, Zach stays aboard, and is just another horse that just showed elite closing fractions there. I mean, he went sub 22 and then went 22.73. So I think that this horse is is probably one that is going to be moving forward pretty quickly. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this horse takes a ton of money. Lightly raced horse that ran decent enough, but I don't know. I think that these fractions I think tell a good story that this horse has definitely got ability. And then the four Patch of Theta, is one that won two in a row, went up in class, and ran decent enough. Seemed to run in a little bit of trouble. Is staying at the same weight. Hugh Bowman stays aboard again. We'll see. I think this one might float up in price compared to his last start where he went off as the favorite. But I wouldn't be surprised if I just picked the top three choices in this race. But I really do think the one is a step above the rest of these here. But I don't know the weight could be a bit of a concern because it does seem like since going up to the high weight, he hasn't ran as well, I guess. But I don't know. Where did you kind of see it, Matt?
Yeah, I looked at all those, and I think horses like Chu Chow Spirit and Patch of Theta. I kind of saw it as okay. I've bet these horses, and they're kind of getting bet on a couple really good races. Now I think Chu Chow Spirit is more consistent than Patch of Theta. Right, Patch of Theta I think hasn't backed up its last couple performances at down in Class 4. Once it's moved up to Class 3, even though those you know I'd say like the wins are there, right? And I'm always cautious with that because it's like, okay, if the horse is winning, who cares how fast it runs, right? Like, who cares from a pure figure perspective? But, um, just kind of given the draw, given the move up in weight, and given the price I think you'll get on Patch Up Theta, I didn't want to go there. And I agree with you on Shoot Chest Spirit. I think I'm willing to toss that just based on the weight alone. Um, I think my low and A in this will be the three Young Achiever. If you watch the replay of that, Zach kind of got the horse caught behind a wall of horses coming into the stretch. He tried to find a hole, couldn't find one. Had to kind of steady the horse shift out, and it still showed some pretty good fractions and kind of drive through the line on that. I think the extra distance just benefits that horse too, and I think to your point, this horse probably takes a fair bit of money, if not goes off favored. But I think I'm willing to pay that here, just because I think that first start was impressive enough to me, um, to kind of warrant whatever price you'll get on it, right? I do think, if any risk, right, like it still might be too green. But I do think this is one horse that breaks through either this time or next, and I'd rather kind of try to take it now, price dependent, right? Than any other because I really, like I said, I don't like some of the other favorites that'll go in here, and I do think they'll take enough money to get you a decent price in the three. Um, Regarding the pace, I kind of waffled back and forth with who I wanted to take between the seven Skyheart and eight Low Bobo. I did think that seven would press. I actually had the seven written down, and I kind of backed off because just I haven't seen much improvement. I think those figures are really consistent to me, but I don't think they're good enough. And look, the argument for Skyheart is it's finally drawn inside the 10 post. If you look at where it's been drawn, right, 10, 14, 13, 12, and 11, those are some horrific draws, and so you'd expect that horse eventually to kind of even out now and say, hey, look, it's finally drawn, not in the clouds. This is the time to bet it. But 6 pounds is a lot of weight to pick up, especially when I do think you'll get kind of that pressured pace. And I do think the eight Loyal Bobo probably has some more excuses, right? Like it was breaking from the 11 post last time. You get the 2 post now. It was trying a full mile. It probably didn't want the full mile, right? I think cutting it back to 1400 is probably where that horse wants to be. And I do think those two races down in class 4 before the move up in class fit. So, maybe it looks like Patch of Theta where, it just won't back up those efforts and isn't a class 3 horse or can't compete in class 3. But I do think you'll get enough of a price to, based off that last effort here, to warrant using. So, of the speeds, if for whatever reason it does get wired, I think the 8 is where I'd want to go as a B. The only other horse that I think I wanted to go towards is the 12 Stellar Swift. And this is just one of those angles where, I'm like, hey, it's the horse's fourth start. Fourth start, you tend to improve. Obviously, it has not won. Because of that, you're getting an extra pound off. You're getting a new jock and it's any, so okay, maybe a new face helps. Um, I thought that horse stayed on okay last time, right? I think that race ended up getting wired by the low weight in there, but sometimes you expect horses to kind of fade out the back, and it looked like a candidate that would fade out the back. And it didn't, right? It at least stayed on. Now, that horse got fourth. I think, a couple nostril hairs, in a photo, and that horse could have ended up seventh. So maybe it looks better on paper, and maybe you don't get enough weight off for that based on the effort. But I'm at least willing to try as a B, given I do think you'll get a very, very nice price on it. Given the low weight, given the decent draw, given the jockey change, and given, again, kind of that fourth start angle. So, maybe as a distant B, just kind of price dependent, I'll use that 12 as well. But I think most of my money will be through Zach on the 3, and probably won't pay all that well if he runs like I think he will.
Well, that means that this thing's paying boxcars, and we're going to go 0 for 3, doesn't it?
Probably, yeah. You probably get burned by someone like the 10 or, with Brennan Abdullah up or something like that. He actually backs up that effort that I don't think was real. But such is the game, right? That's why we'll keep betting on Sunday afternoon, right? We'll go back to Woodbine or, Aqueduct or whatever. So
Hawthorne. I've been meaning.
Have you been playing it? Or have you been playing the pick 8? I played it the first day. I hit like a consolation. I think I put like $16 into a ticket and I won like $20 or something.
Nice.
Like that. And then Mark Midland went and scooped my money the next day.
That's
I haven't
so
played
funny.
since. So
we're supposed to be doing an event with them in about a month.
That's right. I heard you got invited to the elite handicappers.
Well, not that. Yeah. Okay. I did get invited to that, but I'm actually going to be in Mexico up until the day before that. So I don't know if I'm going to be in the right state of mind to, blow $2,500 on a tourney entry. But the week before that, I think we are going to be doing like an event at one of the OTBs, but I gotta get confirmation that we're still good for that. But I think even like Caleb and stuff is coming from out of town, and Mark might come in, so
cool.
should be fun. And then so Hawthorne has this $100 tournament at their OTBs on Sundays. And it's basically just like you have $100 to bet on Hawthorne. I forgot what the exact rule. It might be win, play, show, exact daily double, try it, but it could be everything. I'm not sure, but basically it's $100, no entry fee, and then if you win, it's like a couple $100, I think, in Hawthorne credit, and you get an invite to like the end of the season tournament. And that is like, that's going to have, I don't know if it's a BC seat or if it's just NHC seats, but it's no VIG, right? So, Hawthorne does those tournaments that are no VIG. Like that's the way to qualify to NHC. NHC VIG is crazy, but if you're not paying an entry fee and you're just gambling, like, okay, like, yeah, sure, the VIG the seat might be valued at $5,000 or whatever from that tournament, but you're not paying anything into it, right? So you're just paying takeout. I think it's the best way to qualify for NHC if that's what you want to do. I think it's just they're just fun tournaments, and everyone's like super nice there. Both the people who like run it, like Rhonda, great person. I just like talking to her. Like, she's super nice, super friendly. And all the people at Hawthorne, Emily, Dakota, and the Walshes. I mean, they're all great. So, been meaning to support it more, but they only run that tournament on Sundays, and Sundays have been pretty busy as of late. So, hopefully I'll get out there. But I think that's going to do it for us here. And You've Got to Be Sha Tinning Me. Obviously, check out our stuff at ontherwronglead.com, at @wrong_lead on Twitter. Obviously, like, subscribe, hit all the buttons. This is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever. And obviously, Matt's at Slow and Steady. He'll post his his thoughts on the card on Twitter. And
Say mean things about me all you want. It's great.
Say mean things. He's not going anywhere.
Losers every week, baby.
Have a good weekend, guys.